How's everybody doing today? Today I just wanted to take some time and talk a little bit about Visual Basic, how you can get it, how you can install it, and then once you have it, some of the things that you can do with it. If you are a CIS or CT or almost any technology major at Clinton, you can actually get it for free. There's a website called dreamspark.com, and you can get the professional version of Visual Basic for free. It's about a $300 or $400 piece of software. So if you are a technology student, definitely take advantage of this. If you have any questions, you can call the IT department at Clinton, but you should have access to this. If you're not an IT student, what you can do is there are several sites where you can download the Express version for free. The Express version is kind of like a student version. It doesn't have every single capability as the professional version, but it has pretty much everything we'd need. So two avenues. If you're a technology student, you can go to DreamSpark, get the professional version. If you're not, just Google, download Visual Studio Express, and you'll find several sites to download it. Bottom line though is you do want to get it downloaded, you do want to get it on your computer, or else it's going to be pretty hard to take this course in an online version. What I want to look at next is, let's assume you have Visual Basic now, you've installed it. I'm going to bring up Visual Basic. I double clicked on my icon, so this is what the software looks like. I'm going to do a couple things. When you start out, your toolbox may or may not be over here on the side. It might be kind of in auto hide. So if it's in auto hide, you can bring it out, and then use this little tack to tack it out. For example, it might not be there, so I can tack it out there. I like to do that. I like to have my toolbar out here. The other thing I'm going to do is, right off the bat, I want to make sure that I know where it's going to save files. So I go to Tools, I go to Options, and I'm going to go to Projects and Solutions. Now by default, it's going to save these in a folder, and it's going to be in my Documents, in my Visual Studio 2013, and then in my Projects. If you know where that is and you're comfortable with that, you can say, alright, that's fine, I'm going to save them there. If you want to, you can say, yeah, you know what, I want to just have them save onto my desktop, and that way I'll know where they are. Either way, my point is you need to know where it is saving your projects. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to start a new project. I'm going to say File, New Project. It's going to come up. It says, alright, it's going to save it on my desktop. And I'm just going to call this Project 1. Just going to play around with it. I hit OK. What it will do now is it creates a Visual Basic project for me. I have a form here, which is just a place where I can put controls, write my code, do all the stuff I need to do. This is my toolbox, so all the controls I want, whether it's a button or a label or a text box, I can get them from here. I like to have mine set to all Windows forms, because it just gives me all the controls. Over here is my Solutions Explorer. It shows me what I have for a project that's open, and it shows me what components are part of that. Right now it's pretty simple. It's called Project 1, and I only have a form. Here are my properties, so whenever I bring out any particular property, any particular control, it will have a list of properties. For example, if I said, alright, I know one thing that I'm going to do is I want to bring out a label, so I drag out a label. Since my label is clicked on, it has some properties here. I always like to go AZ because I want to alphabetize these things. That does a couple things. It alphabetizes it, but it also puts the name of that property right up front, and I like that. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename this label. I'm going to call it LBL Hello. Our first little program we're going to do is just going to type the word hello. So this label is now called LBL Hello. That's how I refer to it. I'm going to set the auto size to false, and I'm going to set the border style to fixed. What I like about that is if I now take away the text is what displays in the label, I still get to see the label there, and it has a particular size. If your auto size is set to true, what happens is that label will kind of disappear on you, and sometimes it's hard to find. So, like I say, I like that set to false, and I like my border style fixed single. I'm going to drag out a button next. My button is where we usually put code. I'm going to name this button BTN Hello. And as far as the text that I want to appear on this button, I'm just going to put the word hello. Alright, so I've got a button, I've got a label. What I want to do is I want to add a little bit of code behind this button. So I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to say LBL hello dot text equals hello. Let me try to explain what this line of code does. LBL hello is my label. Dot text is the text property of my label, which will display text in my label. I'm going to say I want this to equal the word hello. At this point, I'm going to run this. I click, and it works. Now, it's a real simple little program, but it is working. I want to save this, so I'm going to click File, Save All. It should be going to my desktop, and it should be creating a project folder called Save All. Actually, that's a project folder called Project 1. If I go here, I see it. It's Project 1. Even with a tiny little project, what you need to realize is there are a lot of files involved with it. I've got folders, I've got subfolders, I've probably got 30 files altogether. So when you go to hand this in, you're going to have to upload it to Angel. You need to create a zipped folder and put this into it. So if I want to create a zipped folder, I can right click on my desktop, I can go to New, and then I can say Compressed Zipped Folder. If this was Homework 1, I could call it HW1, whatever you want to call it. I drag this in. Now this Project 1 is in my zipped folder. I see it there. And this is what you can upload to Angel. A lot of times people make the mistake they just give me one file and it doesn't really work because I can't open it, I can't grade it. So you create your entire project, you save it, it will create a project folder for you. You drag this into a zipped folder. This is what you need to upload to Angel. Anyhow, hopefully this was informative and helpful. We'll see you next time.